Welcome along to the Film Man and the Film Fan. My name's Brent. I'm here with the owner of Matakana Cinemas. Dan, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thanks. This is our first one for 2023, and we're doing things a little bit differently this year, Dan, for the podcast, is that it's great for you if you're watching. You get to see more of Dan and I, which must be awesome. That would have been on their Christmas list, I'm sure, to see our faces on screen more. We're going to talk about more topics, and we're going to release more content for you to watch, and you're going to find out more about movies, what's going on behind the scenes, our favorite films, what we've seen. So let's get underway with the Film Man and the Film Fan. Okay, Dan, I want to talk about how summer went. Last time we did the podcast, you got out your Matakana Cinemas crystal ball.
Yeah, which is made out of an old halogen lamp.
We were talking about Avatar: The Way of Water because it hadn't come out yet.
How big will this film go in New Zealand? Back in 2009, it did $17 million in New Zealand. Will the film do the equivalent, which would be, say, 20 million?
Yeah.
Not sure. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think people will come and see it.
They
will.
Yes.
The film needs to be really good for it to get into those sort of upper echelon numbers.
Yes.
And that's an exciting prospect. Nevertheless, I think we've got a big film on our hands.
So how did it go for you?
I think it got to nearly 21 million in New Zealand, and that was over the 17 or so that the first film did back in 2009, so probably just slightly outperformed it. 3D was a massive part of this film, and I know it was with the first one as well.
Yeah.
In fact, 3D in 2009 made a massive comeback, and it played through for about 2 or 3 years after that first Avatar film. So James Cameron knows how to get people into the cinema. He knows how to influence the trajectory of, what's hot in cinema. He's a pretty incredible filmmaker in that regard, and he showed yet again, that he can make winning films. I mean, what an incredible performance that film did over the summer period, and it was our number one film here by far.
Dan, I love the Academy Awards, mainly because Indiana Jones and Short Round got to hug again.
Pretty much the sweetest part of the whole ceremony, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What was absolutely the biggest show on the night and an incredible result for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mentioned the A24 Studios as the hottest studio on the planet.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
They did it again with this film. For them to win 7 Academy Awards is pretty incredible for what effectively is a crazy adventure art house film. And for them to win the big awards as well, Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting, they were right up there with the top echelon of awards.
Yes.
They swept the floor, really.
They did.
And for them to do that is, I think, showing how well A24 Studios are performing with their marketing, how clever they are with picking films and turning them to incredible productions. And also, I think it's a real win for interesting films. Not that interesting films haven't won before, but sometimes it's the big, don't get me wrong, good film that's coming from a big studio, from a big name director that takes the award.
Yes.
I think of a film like Moonlight winning, and this film is a really beautiful parallel. Incredible movies that really, really deserve to win, that were kind of the underdog winner in some respects.
Yeah, because I think when I saw the trailer for it, I thought, what is this all about? So from just being a casual movie fan, you go, I don't know whether that's something I want to see. But obviously, I mean, you've been showing it again in the cinema, so people have got the award, seen, well, that looks pretty good. Let's go back and watch it, right?
Yeah. I think, and the comment on Moonlight, great for African-American representation.
Yeah.
Great for gay representation. And then you think about this film, amazing for the Asian community and their representation, and amazing for an original film to just kick ass, It's and it really does, that movie. Yeah, fantastic.
Dan, the school holidays, I'll be sitting in the front row for Super Mario.
Oh, wonderful. Look, the school holidays can't come soon enough. I'll just tell you a little bit of background here. We've got a situation where the weather was wet through the back end of 2022. And then since we've had this crazy weather in February, it's just been insanely beautiful weather, not really movie-going weather. So everyone's wanted their summer, and fair enough. The beaches have been pumping, and I'm pretty sure I've been smelling a lot of barbecue going on in my neighbourhood.
Yeah.
But the school holidays are just around the corner, and for the cinema, that's really exciting because we will all of a sudden see the families back in the theatre, and we've got a brilliant lineup kicking off with, as you said, Mario Brothers. There's a built-in audience, and I do know that with the whole Nintendo and Illumination Studios who are producing it, there is real potential for this film to be pretty much the biggest of the school holidays. One thing I love about Illumination is they know how to do kids' movies.
They do.
Lots of colour,
Yeah.
not a crazy long runtime, not too over the heads of the kids.
No.
And let's face it, I am pretty confident that kids just want to go to the movies and have a good time.
Yes.
Like most people.
Exactly, like me.
Sometimes I think that animated films can be targeted at too higher or too much of an older demographic,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
the kids can get a bit lost. Illumination, Minions, Secret Life of Pets,
Absolutely.
very fun films, and I think Mario Brothers is going to be in the same vein.
I think what they do for animated movies is slapstick, and slapstick works for kids and even for me in live action movies. So slapstick in a cartoon is even better. And, Chris Pratt, he's doing one of the voices, and he's a good comedy actor. He's got a recognizable voice, and he's funny doing this stuff.
Yeah, Mario Kart's pretty hot right now, I know, amongst my cinema team. So, goes hand in hand. I think this film's going to really rock. We're hearing amazing things about it. It's actually starting on the 5th of April, so just before the school holidays kick off.
Cool. What else is coming up for the school holidays?
Well, also on the 5th of April, unusual start dates. Wednesday is not common for film start dates. Usually it's Thursday in New Zealand. We've got Air, which is not explicitly directed at the kids, but it's directed by Ben Affleck, who also stars as Phil Knight, who is the creative behind the very, very famous shoe company Nike, depending on which one you want to call it. The cast includes Matt Damon, Viola Davis plays Michael Jordan's mum, and it's about trying to lure the legend, whom we know now as Michael Jordan, who wasn't back then in the 80s, to bring a shoe to the shoe market with his name on it. And the reviews at Rotten Tomatoes are currently sitting at 97% after 30 odd. There's big raps on this film, and I think for slightly older family audiences, this could be a real winner. We also have Mavka, the Forest Song, which is a beautifully animated film for the younger audience. And we also have Argonauts, which is also squarely aimed at that young audience. So you probably got Mario coming up first as the film that's going to be first out of the blocks for most families and kids, and then those two other films are going to be the ones. And then, of course, we've got Dungeons and Dragons.
Air will be good. I mean, basketball's a massive thing. So basketball movie, even though it's aimed about the stories of the shoes, which are very popular, I think that'll do well.
Basketball is one of the fastest growing sports in New Zealand, and hey, the Breakers nearly hit first place this season. So I think there is definitely going to be some interest in this one.
Actually, Dan, there was something interesting that I spotted on your website.
That we haven't touched on yet. Yes, Suzume is the film you're probably talking about. So another one for the school holidays. So that is a Japanese animated film. So for anime, manga fans, if you're a Studio Ghibli fan, this is definitely a film for you. It's something that's going to be on limited release. We're going to be showing a handful of sessions through the school holidays because we know that the audience who wants to see those films, they'll come to the sessions that are on. They're not necessarily a wide release. However, we're hearing incredible things about this movie. Anime fantasy, direct out of Japan, something that I think the fans of those films will come to the cinemas to see. And if you're feeling intrepid with your cinema going, it might be something you want to catch as well.
And of course, Dan, through the school holidays at Matakana Cinemas, it's not all about the kids. There's great stuff for adults to watch as well. So what do you got coming up?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess the adults are going to be taking the kids to some of these movies, and they'll be seeing that. But sometimes you just want to see something that's more aimed at your level. We do have a film called Mafia Mama coming up, which is an adult comedy with Toni Collette, who turns out that one of her family has passed away and was the head of the mafia in Italy, and so she has to take over with comedic results. We have on the 20th a film called Shackleton, which is a documentary about the famous Antarctic explorer. We've actually had a lot of people already asking us when it's starting in the theatre, so if you're a fan of Lancaster and Spitfire, I think this one's perfect for you. If you're in the older demographic, I think that's where the interest is going to be. We've also got previews of a film called Polite Society at the back end of the school holidays. I'm actually really looking forward to this movie. It's one that you need to kind of check out the trailer, but bend it like Beckham. It's a British film about a couple of young sisters who happen to be pretty good at martial arts and not so happy about the marriage of the older sister.
Yeah.
It looks really fun. So that's
It
previews at the back end of the school holidays, and it starts on April the 27th officially. Also on April the 20th, I don't really need to say much about this movie apart from go watch the trailer. The runtime's a bit of a beast, but it's from Ari Aster and A24 Films, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It's called Beau is Afraid. And if you liked Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Oscar-winning film, then this is definitely one for you. It looks really interesting. And as an exhibitor, we don't know much about it, except we're hearing pretty good buzz. And look, A24 is pretty much the hottest studio on the planet. They know how to make good movies.
Yeah. All right, I'm off the website to watch that.
Absolutely. Good idea. Go and check it out. Another film that we can touch on starting on the 27th is Marlowe, which is starring Liam Neeson. And it's based on the famous detective character set in LA. It looks like a really straight up and down LA detective story. Lots of cliche stuff in there, which
Cool.
I think is actually really fun sometimes because you can just go in and sit in the movie and let it wash over you. And the last film I want to touch on because of who the cast is, we've got Jennifer Saunders and the great Dame Judi Dench starring in Alleluia, which is set in a retirement home or a hospital retirement home, and it's a comedy drama with all the good feels, and I think it's going to be perfect for the older adult demographic.
Dan, I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I've seen the movie. I absolutely loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. Chris Pine at his very best, the comedy, the writing, Hugh Grant being Hugh Grant, but in a fantasy setting. And I think the thing for me is that Dungeons and Dragons, I know the game. I never played it, but I really wanted to see it once I'd seen the trailer for it. And, it's been doing really well on Rotten Tomatoes and all these things. The good thing about it is, if you've never played Dungeons and Dragons like me, that's okay. You're going to love this movie. Everything is explained right from the beginning.
Well, I mean, I do movies naturally.
Yeah.
And I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. And I know that it's a bit of a niche fan base because it was such a big game in the 80s. Probably Stranger Things has given it a little bit of a boost of late, and maybe why that is why this movie came into production. But
Yeah.
I think the impression we're getting is that it's got this title that might make people think it's just for the fans of the game, but actually what we're hearing and what you're telling me is that it's a genuinely fantastic standalone film.
Yeah, it's just a good movie. Like the visual effects, some of the camera shots are amazing. The cast is incredible, and you know what's happening right from the get-go. It's narrated, which I love in movies because the narration, like when you go back to Lord of the Rings, sets you up. So if you've never read the books, you've never played the game or whatever, you know what's going on. And that's good. So then you can just sit back once that happens right at the very beginning and just enjoy everything that goes on. And I absolutely loved it. I laughed all the way through it, and so did the audience in there.
Yeah, awesome.
And so I think, don't be put off by the title. Don't say, well, I never played the game. If you want to see a really good fantasy movie that has a really great rotund dragon in it, one of the funniest things in there, and just great visual effects, beautiful scenery, and funny acting, then it's the movie for you, really.
And a good family film for the holidays?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
There's some scary bits, and I jumped in my seat a couple of times, but then I never see horror movies because of that. I think for the most part, the movie is great for the whole family to watch.
Excellent. Yeah, good to hear.
So, Dan, before we started the podcast, you were talking about Apple and Amazon, and they're doing something really interesting, which I think is going to be great for cinema, right?
Yeah, well, two of the biggest names on the planet, they're actually getting into theatrical releasing, which for us as an industry is extremely exciting because streaming has been the hot thing over the last couple of years for obvious reasons through the COVID pandemic. And for these guys to be saying, we're going to commit to releasing major films to screen, Amazon doing Air, for example. Paramount had dated Killers of the Flower Moon for October, which is Martin Scorsese's new film.
Yeah.
And it's a Apple Studios film that's going to theatrical. That's really exciting for us. As an industry, we're still feeling the effects of COVID. I think what we're seeing is the production lags going back to 2020 and 2021,
Right.
where shutdowns were happening in the film industry because of COVID. Big films like Top Gun and Minions and Elvis actually papered over the cracks of the holes we sort of had.
Yeah.
And it's made it really difficult. The back end of last year was really up and down because over the summer you truly should have 3, 4, even 5 really strong films.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for example, usually in the summer holidays, we'd have an Avatar, a Jumanji, and 2 big animated films. We only had Avatar
Right.
and Puss in Boots.
Right.
So we were down like a couple of big films. So the performance of Avatar it was this behemoth that
Yeah.
kind of had this big runway.
Yeah, yeah.
Where there wasn't really much competition.
Oh, right,
But you
cool.
need it. You
Yeah,
need
yeah,
that
yeah.
competition when it comes to the summer period because you want to keep engaging with people. I want to see that. I want to see that. I want to see that. It's a double-edged sword in our industry.
Yeah.
And because it was a wet summer, it should have been a bigger summer.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the films to drive
No, that's
the
right.
box
Yeah,
office. So people were going to see Avatar
Yeah.
and then they'd either not come back or they go to see Puss in Boots or they come and see Avatar again.
Yeah, yeah.
There wasn't like something else that kind of kept them coming back
No,
despite
true.
how wet
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because a lot of people were saying it's so wet.
Yeah.
You guys must be pumping. And we kind of were,
Yeah.
but it was all Avatar.
Right. Okay, cool.
So it was sort of a one-horse race.
Mm.
Looking forward, though, it's really promising.
So, Dan, a little while ago, you teased something really exciting was coming to Matakana cinemas. And it was a great tease because you didn't tell me very much. So now I've been pondering on it for a little while. So can you tell me what is happening? Is it great?
Yeah, it's great. It really is. And that's about all I can tell you.
Come on, I need
Just
more
kidding.
than that.
Okay. I'll give you a little bit more. So
Okay.
something that's been in the works for a long time, I've been working with my team on is a membership program for
Right.
the cinemas.
Yeah.
We do have a stamp card as it stands, and that will continue. But what we're going to add in is a few more layers, and it's really, really exciting because it allows people to sign on to the membership and pull really, really great perks, better than you've ever seen at Matakana Cinemas.
Oh,
and
cool.
we feel like we've got one of the coolest and most interesting membership programs
Yeah.
in New Zealand cinema coming up. So there's a few things that we will, start pushing out over the next few weeks, and we're really excited to announce them. I'm really happy to say that we're filming in the Vintry today,
Yes,
our neighbours and partners, and they've come on board with a fantastic offering. So there's many other things as part of it, but there's a little bit more information for you and for the watchers and listeners out there, but we're not going to give too much away at this point.
Okay. Can I ask, did you take on board my request for having a golden seat in the best spot in the cinema that you can buy?
I think that's strictly mine at this stage, but we'll see what we can do for you.
I was thinking of calling it the throne, but hey, look, it's up to you though, but that sounds really good. So we look forward to getting some more info on that.
Or we could turn it into a game.
Yeah, that'd be good. Am I going to get free M&Ms out of this thing? What's going on?
I don't know. Custom.
See 5 movies, get a packet of M&Ms free, Dan. That's what.
No, you're going to be getting more than that, I think.